so excited to be showing you these fun country fair cards today from the Hero Arts bi-monthly hero kit from July of 2018. The kit included this adorable 6x8" clear stamp set, all of these amazing dies, 3 4" by 6" chipboard postcards, and inks in red, white, and blue. Unfortunately, this kit has sold out, but I'm hoping you can use the inspiration from this video to create similar cards with your own stamps and dies. The first thing I did with this kit is stamp a number of images and color them in. I picked a color scheme that would coordinate throughout all of the different cards I was going to be making. I knew I would be doing some ink blending with Distress Oxide inks, so on a whim I decided I would try coloring using a blender pen and the Distress Oxide inks, and it worked beautifully. One of the cards I'm going to be creating is a big scene, and so to make sure that the images blended in with the scene beautifully, I colored in the areas in between that would be see-through areas with the same color ink. I like the look so much that I actually just did it with all of the different pieces. On the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round, I added some detail with a gold Signo gel pen. My first set of 4 cards are these adorable shaped cards. I used the coordinating dies to create card bases, and then I glued the die-cut colored pieces onto the front. I really think these would be fun for lunch boxes, and you could also use your hole punch and create tags out of them. You could even just create them for a little one to play with. For my next card, I took the fair border stamp and stamped it in black VersaFine ink along the bottom of a card base. I then grouped the 3 little adorable balloon stamps like this and repeat stamped them all over the front of the card. For a change, I decided to color them in with my Zig Clean Color markers, just using the markers. I actually thought this was really fun and the colors are very vibrant, so it worked perfectly. I would take a color and color 3 of the balloons in a triangle formation around the card. I repeated this until all of the balloons were colored in. My plan was to use the sign Happy Birthday from the stamp set, stamped inside the card with a window open to it. I took the coordinating die, placed it on the front of the card, and ran it through my die cutting machine. I then inked up the Happy Birthday stamp with Onyx black ink and stamped it in the space provided. Unfortunately, I colored it and I really didn't like the color combination. So what I did is I stamped, die cut, and colored another piece and then used it to cover up the color combination I didn't like. I added Nuvo crystal drops to each of the balloons for a little added dimension and shine. I've never used this before and I really loved how it turned out. I then decided I wanted to create another card using the Fun Fair border stamp. I marked off an area in the middle of my card using Post-it tape, and then ink blended some Distress Oxide Salty Ocean and a little bit of peeled paint on the bottom for some grass. I then stamped the fair over the green in black ink and added the sentiment, "Enjoy the ride." And with that, this card is complete. I created these next 2 cards for my friend's son. He just started West Point in basic training last month, and the only way they can receive communication right now is through the mail. The stamp set in the kit and the inks included gave me everything I needed to make a quick military-themed card to hopefully uplift a young man going through a tough time. I stamped the L-shaped border on the front of my A2 card base using the red reactive ink, and then followed that up with the stars in the blue reactive ink, and then another L-shaped border in the red reactive ink again. After that, I had a little bit of a hard time figuring out what I wanted to do with the sentiment. I came up with using the Hello stamp, stamped several times in the blue reactive ink, and then followed that up with one more of the L-shaped borders in the red reactive ink. Being that this is for a young man in the military, I decided that this was probably all this card needed, beside words of encouragement that I'll be writing inside. With this next card, I am using an A2 horizontal card base, and I'm stamping the sentiment, "You make the world go around," in blue reactive ink. I then stamped the star border in red reactive ink on the left and right of the sentiment. I finished this card off with a Ferris wheel colored in the same red reactive and blue reactive inks. For some dimension, I popped it up on some foam squares. And there we have another quick and simple card. And now for the grand finale. I started off with 2 pieces of white cardstock, one 8.5 inches by 10 inches, and the other 8.25 inches by 9.75 inches. I scored and folded both of them in half, the long ways, and then put the larger piece aside. I measured and scored 2 half-inch slits, about 1/2 inch apart, in the center of the crease. This will create the pop-up for one of our rides. I then reversed the center section to create my pop-up. I used purple tape to create a mask, and then ink blended peeled paint Distress Oxide ink onto one side. This will be my ground. I then did the same thing on the other side, but I noticed that what happens with the Distress Oxide ink is it's much heavier than the regular Distress ink, and so I had a little bit of a hard time creating my clouds and sky. I ended up with the piece that I have here, and I just used this to cover up the background I didn't like. When I was done with my ink blending, I took the center panel and folded it in half, and centered it with the larger panel. I applied tape runner to half of the inside piece, and then closed the front cover on top of it, pressing down firmly to make sure it's secure. I repeated this process on the other side, and my card is ready to add the inside pieces. Bear with me as I build this scene. It was a little bit difficult to record because of the angles. I started by applying the roller coaster to the center pop-up I had just created. I then added 2 snack bars. One is attached to the back of the card, and the other one is attached using a pop-up spring that I created. To create the pop-up mechanism, I started with a piece of 4.25 inch by 5.5 inch 110-pound cardstock. I placed the entire sheet on my scoreboard with the 5.5 inch side ready to be scored. I then scored at 1/2 inch, 1.5 inches, and then every 1/2 inch up to the 4.5 inch mark to leave another inch segment at the end. I then cut 3 3/4 wide strips from the 4.25 inch side. I'll save the rest for future projects. Time to fold, alternating between mountain and valley folds for all of the score lines. When everything is folded, the 2 ends will be glued together to create the spring. But first I'm going to glue the segment I'm pointing to the 1-inch segment next to it. I found this works well to stabilize the pop-up. Now I will flip it over and put glue on the end 1/2 inch segment and bring it around to glue to the opposite end of the spring. And there you have it, a super fun pop-up spring to add life to our carnival. I used the same spring to attach the Ferris wheel and the carousel. I decorated the sky by applying an airplane with a "Hello There" banner behind it, this birthday sign which turned out better than I could have expected, and here's how. I covered the arrow with white Nuvo glitter drops, and after the glitter was dry, I colored it with a Copic marker. This worked really well, and the color isn't going anywhere. I then colored the sign in a red Copic marker, leaving the word "Happy" in white. I then covered it in Nuvo crystal glaze, which I don't think I was supposed to do because the white word turned a little bit pink. The end result is a somewhat rustic-looking sign, which I find to actually be perfect. The perfect finishing touch to this adorable card, which I'm pretty sure I won't be able to give away, are these 3 hot air balloons. They truly are the icing on the cake. To hold the card closed, I created a belly band using the large die that came in the kit. I took a red piece of cardstock and cut it in half, so I had 2 4.25 inch by 11 inch pieces. I then ran each piece through the die cutting machine, making sure that one of the edges did not get cut. I took one of the die cuts and put glue on all of the rays and around the edges. I then attached the two pieces together in opposite directions. I scored off a section in the middle of the band that was 1 notch larger than 4 1/4 inches. I then folded it, creased it, put it around the card, and added adhesive to seal it. I stamped a ticket to Fun, die cut it, and placed it in the center of the oval. And now my card is complete. I have so much fun creating with these kits Hero Arts puts together, especially these little scene builder sets. I hope this video has provided you with a lot of inspiration to create cards with this card kit or with your own stash. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I always love to hear from my viewers. For more information, please visit my blog at www.perkypennypapers.com and follow my Instagram at perkypennypapers. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and subscribe to my channel to see when new videos are uploaded. A list of supplies is available in the description of this video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today.